Right, I wanted to go over the answers to this homework. This was all about graphing lines and knowing equations of lines and then writing the equations of lines given a slope and a point or 2 points. So you need to remember when you're graphing, this is going to give you your y-intercept, and this tells you how to go away from your y-intercept using your slope. So you're going to go on the y-axis to 4, and you're going to put a point. Then this tells you, remember I told you to bring the negative up top to the numerator. That tells you to go down by 2 and over by 1, 2, 3. Put your point. You can do more than just 1 point. Down by 2, over by 1, 2, 3. Put a point. You can do as many as you want, but this is the general shape. It's not going to be perfect because I don't have a ruler. Just make sure that you have a y-intercept of 4 and you go down to over 3. The next one is going to have a y-intercept of -5, could be here. And then whenever you have a number that is not a fraction, just write it out as a fraction. So that's up by 2 over by 1, up by 2 over by 1, up by 2 over by 1, and do that as many times as you want until you have enough points to be able to get the general shape of your line. Remember, the line is the visual interpretation of all the solutions, all of the points x comma y that make this true, meaning this whole equation true. Interesting, it just switched to a different color. Okay, the next one of the funky ones that is not in slope-intercept form is in x equals or y equals form. It's either going to be vertical or horizontal, and the way you can remember this is if it's x equals, it's got to go through the x-axis. So this goes to the x-axis at -4, and the only type of line that's going to go through the x-axis at -4 if it's vertical or horizontal would be a vertical line. So that is basically what it looks like. Yours is probably neater than mine though. And the next 3 problems had to do with looking at the lines and figuring out what the equation of the line is going to be. Remember, you're going to want to know what your slope is and what your y-intercept is. So I can see a pretty point right here and a pretty point right here. So that is down by 2 over by 3. So I'm going to put down y equals -2/3, and then don't forget your x. Without the x, it ends up being actually just a horizontal line. I'll show you that in just 1 second. And then you have a y-intercept of 6, so +6. What I meant, if you didn't have the x, if you had y equals -2/3 plus 6, that is just meaning y equals 5/3, or I mean 5 1/3. Which technically would just be a horizontal line. That's why it's important for you to remember your x. So this is the equation that would generate all the points that would make this line right here. Now in the next one, you have a horizontal line. That's either going to be x equals or y equals because it's one of the funky vertical or horizontals. All you have to remember is that if it goes through the y-axis and it's vertical or horizontal, meaning it's horizontal, then it's going to be y equals, and then wherever it goes through. This just means if you're generating points, it does not matter what x is, y always has to be 5. You can put any other numbers in for x1, 3, 5, 7. If you plotted these, they would all fall on that line. This is just saying no matter what, y has to be 5, no matter what x is. Now on the next one, pretty point is here, pretty point is here. You can see that's up by 3 over by 1, so 3x, and then it is going to go through the y-axis at -4. So that is the equation of the line that represents this graph, or would create all the points that would make that line. Now, the last things we had to go over were writing the equation of lines. I told you that you could either solve for b or use point-slope form. I'll show you both. So if you're doing solving for b, you write the equation with everything you have. You then solve or substitute in that for x and that for y. So you'd have 5 equals -1/3 times 12 over 1 plus b. 5 equals, that's going to give you -4 plus b. And when you add 4 to both sides, you end up with 9 equals b. So the equation is y equals -1/3 x plus 9. If you did point-slope form, you say y minus the y-coordinate equals the slope times x minus the x-coordinate That's point slope form. If you want to get it into slope intercept form, you would distribute in negative 1/3 x, negative 1/3 times negative 12 is plus 4. And when you go over and add your 5 to both sides, you get the same exact answer of y equals negative 1/3 x plus 9. Now the next one, you are trying to figure out the equation of the line. You're going to have to find out the slope, and then you're going to substitute in a point and solve for b, or do point slope form. But I'm going to do solve for b. x1, y1, x2, y2. Slope is going to be 9 minus 5 all over 3 minus 3. That gives you 4 over 0. And now you have to go through a thought process. 0 is underneath, so the slope is undefined. Undefined is vertical, and vertical goes to the x-axis. What that means is that it's going to be x equals whatever the x-coordinate is of your point. And the x-coordinate of your point is 3 in both of them. I know people always say, well, what happens if one of them wasn't 3? Which one would I pick? And the answer is you would not have gotten this slope unless the two x-coordinates were the same. Let's do one more problem. x1, y1, x2, y2. You have 3 minus negative 1 all over 6 minus 4. And that is going to give you 4 over 2, or 2. So you write the equation with everything you know. 2x, you don't know your y-intercept. Pick either point. That's got negatives. No thank you. I'll take that one. So it's 3 equals 2 times 6 plus b. 3 equals 12 plus b. When I subtract 12 from both sides, you end up with negative 9 equals b. So you have the equation y equals 2x minus 9. And you should get the same exact answer if you decided to do point slope form. All right, thanks for watching.